Hey everyone, welcome to the Native Excellence series. Today you're going to find me with Sariah Harlan. And thank you for being here with me today to share your insights with my students. Would you please share your pronouns with us?
Okay, so I am referenced as her, she,
Thank you.
and
And before we get started, I'd like to do the land acknowledgement for the Western Iowa Tech Community College Service Area. So I'll read what I wrote up and then we'll continue on with this conversation.
okay.
So TRIO Upward Bound at Western Iowa Tech Community College services middle and high school students throughout Northwest Iowa and Northeastern Nebraska. The mission of the Upward Bound program is to provide access to higher education to those students with economic and generational barriers. To achieve our mission, we must honor, protect, celebrate, and acknowledge the stolen land that we are on and the community members who are native to these lands. Which is why I will acknowledge the peoples who are indigenous to this land and the tribes and nations who were displaced and moved to reservations near us today. The Western Iowa Tech Community College service area is Sioux City, Iowa, Lamars, Iowa, Cherokee, Iowa, Mapleton, Iowa, and Denison, Iowa. All of land sessions 410, 315, 265, and 151. The Upward Bound service area also includes Hinton, Iowa, Homer, Nebraska, Lawton, Onawa, Sloan, and Whiting, Iowa. Current reservations near the Western Iowa Tech Community College service area are the Omaha Reservation, the Ponca Trust Land, the Ho-Chunk Reservation and Off-Reservation Trust Land. And I would like to acknowledge the native peoples to these lands, which are the Oceti-Sakowee, the Yankton, the Omaha, the Ho-Chunk, and the Iowa. The Iowa people is who the state of Iowa is named after. And I'd like to acknowledge also the genocide and the displacement that occurred with them, with many of the land cessions. And they currently reside in Nebraska, Kansas, and also there's another tribe in Oklahoma. And I guess I'd like to pay my respects to those people. And thank you. So thank you for being with me, Sariah. And so I guess to get things started, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from?
So I grew up on the Omaha Reservation, but I actually went to a small town next to me, Decatur and Lyons High School, and actually was part of the Upward Bound program, which was really beneficial to me because they helped me. They helped with like prepping me for the LSAT. They gave free, not LSAT, sorry, ACT. They helped me the ACT prep courses, and they actually paid for my ACT test. So that was really helpful because sometimes those tests can be really expensive.
Yeah, and you probably said LSAT right now because you're currently preparing for the LSAT.
Yeah,
and you've taken it recently, right?
Yes, I have.
So you're interested in law. What makes you interested in law, and why do you want to pursue it?
So my dad actually got his degree from BYU in political studies as well, and it was something that we would talk about over dinner was politics. And I believe that if you want change, it has to come through education and policy. And so I'm not really satisfied with the way things are currently with politics. I think equality can be implemented more. And so for me, I was always argumentative. And in high school, I was on the debate team and I got to be a young varsity lawyer because I have to be right. But more than that, like, I just think law is something that is so important. Without it, there'd be anarchy, just chaos. And so I feel like lawyers have a bad, like, oh, like they argue, they're boring, but not necessarily. Like, we just want a change for the better. And for me, natives don't really have a voice for things that are happening. And so I feel like I have the opportunity to be a voice for those unheard because I want to learn those things that a lot of people don't want to learn. And why not make that change if I have the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think that's so powerful because change really does through education and then what you do with it afterwards, right? And I think, working in policy and advocating for your community is super important. And I love that Upward Bound helped you get to college where you could kind of start that process, right? To to improve your education and keep taking those steps. So, where did you go to college? And what did you study?
So right after high school, I went to BYU Hawaii, and I realized that wasn't for me. So I transferred to BYU Utah,
Uh-huh.
and there I had a great college experience. Um, I think I was very small minded when I was in high school at Lions Decatur with like a high school of, I think, 300, 200, like a very small class. And so I studied there, I studied business, and then I went on to work for Ho Chunk and their marketing team. And then I realized business was, I was good at it, but it wasn't something I was passionate about. And so I went to Colorado to study pre-law political science, and I graduated there with my bachelor's in there, where I want to continue education, and I am applying for law schools soon in the areas around me.
It's really great that you were able to have that kind of like real life experience, and like kind of learn what you liked. I think that's so important too. There's a lot of value in doing something before you know commit to a whole educational like degree to it, right? So
Yeah,
it's always important to even get those internships or even working a little bit or even shadowing certain professions so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into.
definitely. And that's kind of where I decided right after I got my bachelor's in political science was, do I really want to go to law school? So I got to work as a prosecutor assistant, and there was at times with his supervision where I got to be the acting prosecutor, and it was something I was like, yeah, I like this. I enjoy doing this. I can see myself doing this every day. And I had the opportunity to do that for over a year, and it was so great. It was really hard. Um, Definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone where people just expected me to know, because these reservations, we have a lack of legal counsel on reservations. And it's like that all over. We have a lack of professionalism on these reservations. Like, why would they choose to work for a poor reservation when they can go work for a corporate or go work for a firm and make more money? And so they saw that I was wanting to learn, so they said, hey, you know you're not technically a prosecutor because you didn't pass the bar, but you could be an acting one with the supervision of your boss. So I was doing a lot of legal work over under my boss, and it was a very fast pacing. Like, I remember he had to be in DC, and he had court on Monday the entire week, and it was my third day, and I had to step in at the courthouse, and I'm like, okay. I remember sitting there like panicked and not sure of what to expect, and I fell completely just on my face, and I was just like, but it was so great that I was humbled, because you don't know everything, and you have to realize, like, if it's something you're really passionate about, you're going to put the effort forth to learn. And I'm all about that. So,
Yeah, it's the growth mindset. I mean, you kind of have to fail to know what you really need to work on and how to
yeah,
push through it, right? And
yeah,
I think that's the most important part. And I love that you're so passionate about prosecuting and just that legal work, and that you got that experience as well. So you're able to continue it. Um, that's awesome. And so you went to Brigham Young, and then you transferred to Brigham Young in Utah, and then you worked at Ho Chunk, and then
yeah.
after that, you transferred to what university in Colorado?
It's Fort Lewis College. It's a liberal arts college.
Yeah, Fort Lewis College, and that's where you got your bachelor's degree in political science because you really knew what you wanted to do and advocate towards. And then you also were able to get some hands-on experience, which is really great. And I love that. I love that trajectory because you really were able to like apply knowledge and really kind of like put yourself in situations where you had to stretch yourself and get out pushed to your limits, which is so cool to me. And I guess so as a Native person, did you feel like what was your experience in college like?
There, well, for one, going from a public school to a private university where BYU is elite. They are in the top scores. We have the #1 business program that's above Yale and Harvard. And you have these classmates that went to private schools, that had the
Mhm.
opportunity to have a private education, and
Mhm.
realizing that I came from, parents that were first, guess like first
First
like grandparents.
generation?
Yeah, first generation. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
And, both my grandparents couldn't speak English. Like on my mom's
Mm,
side, they only spoke Spanish. And on my dad's side, they only spoke the Omaha language. So we didn't have grandparents who went to, universities or we didn't have that privileged lifestyle. And so as a Native American, I had to break barriers of being and growing up in poverty, being the minority my entire life in high school, and also being the minority at BYU, and realizing like these kids only have to worry about getting an A in class, where I have to worry about is there going to be a roof over my head? Is there going to be a meal on my table? Like I had to think about, having 2 jobs to be able to survive. And I think that as a Native American, you're you're so used to just like people graduating from high school, and that's awesome, like that's a successful moment, but you have to realize like you have to even push further than that and continue to push back, because there wasn't that many Native Americans at BYU, and I was one of like the poster childs for BYU because I was a female Native American. And I felt like I had to try harder because I, I had to work and go to school. I had to keep up with my studies because they just expected me to just be up here with my classmates. And I wasn't. I didn't have those conversations at the dinner table that my classmates did. They talked about things that I had to look up, where I'm like, wait, what is like the judicial system? Wait, what is like all these like things that I don't know about? And um it's kind of like you're on your own, but it's so worth it. It's absolutely worth it when you realize like I'm going to help pave this path for other Native Americans to follow. And it's so intimidating. It's hard, but talk to your professors. Your professors are going to understand 100%. Make relationships with your professors because they get it. They understand that we are so suppressed, especially in the educational system. They want us to succeed, and develop that relationship with them, because they're going to be like, hey, like, um, it was great. I just feel like, as to other future natives that are aspiring to go to college and even past that to professionalism, it's going to be hard because you are breaking barriers. You are literally pushing against something that we have been oppressed to. And we didn't have I guess the training. And sorry, this is gonna be a really long, like this is a long answer, but this is a great metaphor
No, you're
that
great. You're doing great. I love this. Yeah.
so this really I had this political class is political idealism and political thought and philosophy is political philosophy. And my professor was saying how, you know, talking about, is affirmative action okay? What do we think about affirmative action? And for those that don't know, it's where minorities are kind of given the opportunity to have a lower test score to get into the same class. And I said, absolutely. And I'm like, think about it. If you have these 2 running athletes. One was trained at 5 a.m. to run 3 miles, had a meal, a healthy diet, was groomed to be this great athlete. Like his parents paid for a trainer, paid for a nutritionist, paid for this like athlete to be successful, to be great. And then you have this other athlete who might have not had the meal that morning to race, and might have, had the opportunity to only train when he wasn't working, or when he wasn't studying, or he wasn't trying to provide meals for his family. And so you have these two athletes who are about to race against each other, but one was prepared to succeed and the other one is just trying. And my classmates were just like, whoa, like Sariah makes like a valid point. I'm like, you have to realize like there's two different backgrounds and both these athletes are trying to get to that finish line, but one was groomed to win and the other is just trying to get through to the finish line. That's all he cares about.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it's the effort, right? The want, the drive, and that's what's the most important factor too. But it's not giving the same a space to people, you know what I mean, and on an equal basis. And I think that's what you're saying. I mean, it is breaking barriers to reach the spaces you're reaching, right? And I think that's so important. And I guess like that leads me to, I guess, the final question, which is, what is one piece of advice you would give to future Native students, college students? I know you already said you're going to be breaking barriers and to keep pushing through, but is there anything else you'd like to add, or if you'd like to expand on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that one is you are starting a whole new revolution by being in school. Like, school might not be cool in high school, but school is going to open up so many opportunities. Like, the best advice that my mom said to me was education is going to get you out of education is going to open up doors for you.
Mhm.
And she, she was working in the cotton fields and worked hard. And my mom was always on like the dean's list, and she has 3 degrees. Like, my mom implemented the importance of education, and to other Native Americans, like, education is only going to benefit your life. The more knowledge you have, the more useful to society you are, the more beneficial you are to society. So don't just stop at high school. Like, I didn't become who I was until college. Like, I thought I was just like this brown haired girl, brown skinned girl with like a book nerd. And then I realized, like, wait, I'm kind of cool and great. And I have all
Yeah.
these skills and gifts to offer to society. And you're not going to learn that if you're just with thinking like, oh, that's it, high school, I did it. Like, push yourself. Like, college took me to Japan, China, Russia. They paid for that. I didn't pay
Mhm.
for that. They paid for me to see the world and gain those experiences. And that's opportunities that anybody can have if they just go for it. And same with
Mhm.
you, like Victor, you're doing so much with the education that you have.
Yeah, and I mean, I always say that education is the backbone of success, right? Or it even just gives you the skills and opens so many doors to get to low cubicles like mine today, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's super important. I love working with students and I love doing what I do, and that's what my parents would say too. Like, they'd say, get yourself a desk job so you don't have to like break your back like I do. You know what I mean? And I think, you
Yes,
know,
literally.
yeah, and I think it's just something that we all have to work towards, like always like achieving and shooting for the biggest like star that we see, and you are super cool, and you are super awesome, and I'm so glad that you realized that in college, and I hope that my students realize that soon about themselves as well. And thank you for joining me today, Sariah. I know my students are going to take so much away from your insight. um, Thank you.
Of course. Thanks, Victor.